The evolution of rap, or should I say melodic rap? Some people love it, some people hate it, Joe Budden. But at the end of the day, it is easily the most accessible version of rap that anyone can realistically listen to. We have artists like Juice WRLD, SoFaygo, Young Thug, Gunna Tracks, and shoot, yes, Playboy Cardi, and many other rappers. Safe to say it's definitely one of the most popular versions of rap for sure. So let me know in the comments if you guys enjoy melodic rap or not, and make sure you guys subscribe and like if you enjoy my content. But we're gonna talk about how melodic rap has really changed over the years. First rapper we're gonna get into, the one who really kind of kicked off this whole scene, Young Thug. Now personally, I'm a really big fan of Young Thug. I really think that his music's fire. I listen to it almost every single day. But you know, some people hate it, some people love it. Like he said, in 10 years they all gonna catch up. But in reality, Young Thug was the one who started off this whole melodic, tracks, all that stuff, and really making it like really big. You had Lil Wayne, you had people like that, but Young Thug is really what created that auto-tune craziness, and it just trickled down, and you see the whole Atlanta scene and a lot of people copying or doing exactly what Thug did. Young Thug is easily one of the biggest innovators, if not the biggest innovator in melodic rap. Without Young Thug, I don't know if we would have had a crazy SoundCloud era as big as we did. And that may sound like glaze, but I promise you it's not. After Young Thug, we had people like Uzi, we had people like Lil Pump, Lil Skies, Playboy Cardi, Juice WRLD, every single one of those guys, you know what I'm saying? In any interview, if you look at any point, they definitely will tell you, Young Thug was the guy. Young Thug brought up people like Lil Baby, Gunna. Without Thug, we don't know if they would even be in the musical position that they're in. Now, sure, Gunna, he was already kind of a rapper and he was already doing stuff, but he was around the Young Thug scene as it was in Atlanta, and he just brought everyone up around him, and that's why I respect Thug so much and why I listen to his music so much, is just because that's kind of what I'm doing with my music and what I'm trying to do with everyone. Build up a group, build up people around me, because that's just how you win and get so big as a rapper. There's a reason why Young Thug is so respected in these areas, just because he brought everyone up, he brought hella people up, he made people rich, he changed people's lives, and you just are respected if you do stuff like that, especially in the music scene and especially in Atlanta where not a lot of people make it out. But Thug was definitely the one who started the whole scene, and after that I would say it segues into people like Lil Uzi, Lil Pump. That whole SoundCloud wave was the next evolution, next iteration of melodic rap. They took what Young Thug did, especially with Uzi, they took that Thug whole era and they added a kind of rock aesthetic to it. A lot of these rappers, a lot of these people added their own aesthetic to the melodic rap. Especially with Uzi, you know what I'm saying? You can tell that, he had a lot of rock influences by the way that he carries his voice, the way that he, uses his different, vocal abilities, and it just showcased throughout the music. And the biggest artist we'll talk about later in the video starts with the J, ends with the world. So make sure you keep watching because we're going to go real in depth into that. Now, people like Lil Pump, obviously he has his rock songs and stuff like that, but you know what I'm saying? He didn't really take that whole melodic era and just go straight hard into it, but you can tell with what he was trying to do. He was kind of the first Ian in a way, who we'll also talk about later in the video, but he took a melodic approach. For example, in like his songs like Whole Lot of Drug Addicts and stuff like that, the choruses and everything have that tough, like they have that drill type of weight. My fault, guys. They have the harder bars inside of Lil Pump music. You can hear the flows and everything, but the way that he carried himself with a whole lot of like that type of stuff, you know what I'm saying? That's like that melodic tone, that melodic, singing type of thing, but still implementing like that harder rap. And that's where a lot of people, kind of get confused with like, oh, are these rappers, melodic or not? They definitely are. It's just they take different tones and they add it in. That's like what evolved melodic rap into kind of what it is today. But people like Uzi, we obviously know he's a full-on melodic rapper, and he's probably one of the best to ever do it, in the sense, you know what I'm saying, like he just made so many hit songs. But the next artist we're gonna talk about is definitely probably the biggest artist out of the melodic scene, and that's Juice WRLD. Juice WRLD really, he created his own kind of melodic thing because he took so many rock elements. You hear him talk about Green Day, you hear him talk about all these different artists. I'm pretty sure he probably listened to 3 Days Grace, Billy Idol, people like them. He added all of those rock elements, and if you go and listen to people like Green Day and you listen to all these people, you can really hear their big influence. Same thing with with artists like Ken Carson too. You can hear the big influences, and those people like Ken and Juice, they really kind of implemented their own rock aesthetic into the music. And Juice WRLD, I think, was a lesser, more rock aesthetic in the sense that he didn't really, go full rock star mode and didn't try to like copy that rock star lifestyle, kind of how Opium does to this day. But Juice WRLD definitely implemented it with his vocals and a whole lot of things like that. Sometimes if you listen to some of these rock artists, like the ones that Juice listened to back to back, you can really hear the influence. And that's just where, Juice WRLD separated himself and why people liked it so much. Same thing from that era with people like Lil Skies. They did the same type of thing. Obviously, Lil Skies wasn't like the rock star aesthetic, but he definitely had that type of sound, that type of wave that, created that melodic thing that definitely had some influences. And if you look at Lil Skies, he probably talks about, having a lot of rock influences. His father was, an artist when he was younger, and they really carried that melodic scene into kind of what it is today. Obviously, Lil Skies isn't as talked about as he used to be, but he was definitely a big influence in that for sure. And honestly, that kind of leads us into the present day with people like Ken Carson and Ian. They're kind of, the bigger scene, not so much as Ian as he used to be, but Ian really brought in that whole kind of like, not low pump wave, but he had like that different type of sound that people, really felt. Me personally, I don't like Ian. I feel like his music just not authentic. I don't know, it's him, but it's not him because he's a label, he's an industry plant. Like, sure, you can make fire music, but it's just not my style. Obviously, a lot of people really like it, but for me, it's just not it. And the way that Ian really changed how melodic rap is looked at and a lot of things like that is looked at, same thing with Ken Carson, is the promo behind it. You had artists like Juice WRLD, you had artists like them. Obviously, they had their own promos and stuff like that, but it was a lot more natural. It was a lot more of a natural feeling. Nowadays, the way that everything is carried with melodic rap and all of that, it's more in the promo than sometimes even the music. You'll see artists like Ian and all of them wearing, white people fits and stuff like that, and it's funny and stuff, but it's really coming from the promo, sometimes not even the music. I think that's why a lot of people love Ian so much. It's not even just the music, the promo is where it's at. Same thing with Ken Carson. Obviously, I think Ken Carson makes better songs, but that's just my opinion. At the end of the day, I'm not really listening to Ken Carson and Ian all day, or like how I used to, at least especially with Ken Carson, but they definitely use their promo to their advantage with the melodic scene, and Ian just kind of really leans into that. And sometimes that's kind of where I think it's where it went wrong with melodic rap. Now, is melodic rap terrible? No, but that whole era from the Young Thug to the SoundCloud era was where melodic rap really shined and really brought hip-hop to the #1 spot that it used to be at. But rappers like Ian and all these underground artists are really transitioning melodic rap from just, melodic singing to literal different sounds of the human mind and imagination. And that's kind of where we're at right now. Obviously, some of you guys are like, what about Travis Scott? What about this? What about that? Travis Scott was definitely a big artist too. And I think Travis Scott really brought in the whole movie aesthetic, like that big production, the bass, the everything, the synths to just sound crazy like a movie, like a different world. And that's where kind of Travis Scott kind of sits in his own area. And to this day, I don't even know if any artist really kind of even tries to copy the Travis Scott aesthetic when it comes to like the way his beats and production are, because it's just his own. Now, I definitely think that is coming to an end, and I think that Travis Scott is definitely kind of scrambling, because we all heard Jack Boys 2 and we all know MM3, SoFaygo, and I think SoFaygo is the next leader in the melodic wave. SoFaygo is bringing back crazy, singing aesthetic with the melodic Juice WRLD type flows, but adding just that extra pitch, that extra sound, taking all of that and moving it into what melodic rap used to be. And I'm really excited. If Faygo does everything right, Faygo can bring us back into like that whole era. Call it glaze, call it whatever you want, but it's true. If you hear all the snippets, you hear everything, it really can bring you back into that whole aesthetic and that whole era of just that natural flow melodicness. But that was my take on melodic evolution and how every artist has kind of shaped it from, Young Thug to the SoundCloud era to where we're at now. So I hope you guys enjoyed my takes and what I thought, was pretty, a cool idea. Let me know in the comments what you guys think, what I missed. Make sure you guys are like, subscribe, all that stuff, and follow the Snapchat info_lit. I will be adding you guys back. So I'll catch you guys in the next one. Make sure you guys watch all the other videos, my rankings and all that stuff. If you like my takes on music, and stream my music, Infinite 3, all platforms. I'll see you guys in the next one. Infinite